supervisory role now. I've gone through a supervisory role now, 5 years experience in the industrial sector. I did environmental technology, but now I'm interested in forging. So that's why I had to get acquaintance with what is going on in terms of schooling abroad and possibly in terms of scholarship. I've written my IELTS.
Before we start, this is what I usually do. So let me start afresh. For people that are just coming in, I will be doing this workshop to start from scratch and give you an idea of how you can like draft a good statement of purpose. So before I usually start this thing, I want to make a disclaimer that there is no one size fit all method of writing an SOP, but then there is a general rule that every SOP must kind of like go through or kind of like apply before it stands out, right? And now, you that you're saying this, and I'll be using your profile, and while I write, I'll be asking you a lot of questions on how to or what to add here. Do you understand?
Okay.
So before I start writing an SOP, this is what I usually do. First of all, I create what we call a writing outline. So your SOP should, first of all, it should have a title, statement of purpose. What's that your course again?
Environmental technology.
Masters, right?
No, that's a BSc.
So you want to go for your masters? That's the question.
Yes.
So that's what I'm going to be using. For an MSc in what course?
Environmental toxicology or environmental engineering.
Let me use environmental engineering. This is your area of interest. Oh, we are going to fix it. So I usually add for 2024. You can add your name. What's your name?
Okay, Sunday Egon. That's Sunday Egon.
So in the US, the first name is usually first before the last name. So we can then go on ahead and start. So what I usually do is I kind of like develop what we call the writing outline. So to even start, I usually I have writing outline, which is like, first of all, now I usually do this thing because it guides your writing. Statement of problem. It guides your writing. So this paragraph will have skills, preparation, interest. I'm going to explain this thing later. Then this other paragraph will have something like research, and then faculty overlap. Then we have which other paragraph?
Is it statement of purpose and or on MS?
Statement of purpose
on
4.
Okay, 4.
So that is actually, I like that you pointed this thing out, because in a statement of purpose, what I'm generating now is what we call first draft. So you're not supposed to submit your first draft, right, to your committee. You usually go through maybe first draft, second draft, because you have a whole lot of ideas. So what we're generating here is a first draft. And what I'm doing now is to show you people how you can generate a good first draft, how you can like writing outline that guide you towards generating a good outline that would be good for you to start off the process. So faculty overlap. So why school? Goals. go slash summary. So we have an outline right now. This is what we call outlining. And we are going to be writing individually under each and every subtopic. This will make it easy for you because now I've seen people who write, when you start writing like that, this is what happens. This is what happens when you start writing just randomly. I would appreciate if any one of you that is not speaking to meet your mind, except Sunday, because I'll be using his profile to generate this SOP. So what will happen when you do this kind of outline is that it guides your thinking. So some people, when I review their SOP, you see that this statement of problem, if they don't have this kind of outline, they come here and do something like a statement of problem, right? And then when they come somewhere in here too, they repeat what they have written in the statement of problem. So when you have a writing outline, it guides your thinking, it guides your writing too. So we have to start. You said your this thing is environmental engineering. So now, what part of environmental engineering are you interested in?
Okay, like I said earlier, so environmental toxicology or bioremediation in this aspect, because my project has been focused on that and I've gotten an appreciable experience when it comes to bioremediation and toxicology. That's remediating soil in terms of a petroleum pollutant.
So petroleum pollutants. So what would, your interest is in basically say environment. I'm not really familiar with your field, but we're gonna go with it. So I'm trying to do this so that I don't want to use my profile or a related skill, a related or very familiar profile, so that I don't kind of like bring everything from my head. I want to generate it from a random person so that I show you that just any of you can do this thing if you use this kind of profile. So environmental pollution, right? Which is kind of like, so what I usually do here is statement of problem. By statement of problem, you are expected to do something. I start by giving us statistics. Do you understand? Now I'm not really familiar with your field, so I'm going to go online and do something on statistics of environmental pollution globally. So this is not my field. If it's my field, I will know what is amiss and what I need to do. So found that air pollution caused the globe 8.1 trillion in 2019 alone. Do you understand? Which is equivalent to 6.1% global GDP. Now, you do in Nigeria. I need to get a pen to do this. So this is a problem. You see what I'm saying here, right? 32 million tons of waste every year. You can do, let me get a pen so that we get something out of this. So I have a pen and I want to get a note. So we have in Nigeria, we have 32 million tons of waste every year. Every year. So then you do environmental pollution in tons globally. Okay, so I'm getting different information online, but what I'm trying to do, okay, see another ranking here, see another ranking, and this was a paper written in 2022. Globally, Nigeria is ranked 9th for plastic pollution. Let's go with that. I understand that your own is in petroleum, right? So yes. For plastic 9, this is actually really bad, and it is a problem. Do you understand? So we'll go off of this and be like, extant research has proven that Nigeria ranks 9th What's the word for that again? Ninth, for plastic pollution globally. Making now, it's not just ranking. You're going to give percentage. Now, I like to give percentage compared to, so we are going to say, I'm assuming making, let me see global terms, and then we'll do percentage here. You see there is another article. Nigeria has the largest number of deaths due to air pollution. These are problems. It regenerates 32.5 million tons. I want to see global this thing so that I can give the word now generates. So you can say the percentage of Nigeria. Do you understand? We'll do. I'm not really this thing. Let's see percentage of this thing. So which is 11 points. It's really high. 11.8, making about 11.8%. You can do making or generating. So remember that this is a first draft, generating about 11.8% environmental pollution. I'm literally going with what we are doing is plastic pollution. Environmental pollution. Plastic waste. Probably go over this in English. So this is a problem. And then you also go on ahead and look at, are there efforts by other countries? Are there efforts by, say, like India? Nigeria is a third world country. Are there efforts by India, China, US? Do you understand? So obviously there could be efforts. I don't want to go really deep into this, but let's see. Effort and sensitization. Okay, ignore my typos first, but you all get what I'm trying to say. By top countries like India, China, I'm just assuming, right? India, China, and the United States. To curb and control plastic waste. Leading to environmental pollution. These efforts includes, we can say, recycling, it includes. So what I want to say is not just recycling, but basically favorable policies, or I've forgotten the word I'm using here. The word I'm using here is kind of like something that would make it mandatory for companies to not just recycle, but give incentives, kind of policies. Includes
That's regulations.
Yeah, that's it. Includes strict regulations and policies. Cycling. So you can add other stuff because this is obviously this is not going to be. So another thing I do is all of the idea was not coming out at once. What I do when I'm writing is this. Once I run out of ideas, what I do is this. I put a bracket and be like, add other remedies or steps. So when I'm reading this, I know that I'm going to add this thing. I'm going to look up something. Do you understand? Then you start writing. However, this is not the case for Nigeria. You can also go on ahead and say things that are really making Nigeria, making the plastic waste. Do you understand? Making Nigeria generate a lot of plastic waste. So you can add a note for yourself. So if you don't know how to use a note, you can do like this. If you don't know how to use a note or comments, you can do like this, add comments here. So when you add comments, you don't want to put it like this in your Word documents. When you add a comment, you can just say, look up causes of plastic pollution in Nigeria. You add that comment there. So that whenever you're reading this paper, once you come here, this comment is going to pop up. You can also write it here inside the Word document. Look up causes of plastic pollution in Nigeria. So now, what I'm doing here is what we call problem statements, right? So this is not the case for Nigeria, blah, 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 as there has been increased maybe plastic or increase in importation, or high dependence, just causes of pollution. Do you understand? If there has also been efforts maybe to regulate this kind of policies in the house, because I believe that maybe sometimes or at some point, Nigeria will move towards regulating this kind of policy. Do you understand? As other countries has been doing. So there have been massive efforts and sensitization by top countries like India and towards controlling or to cover and control plastic waste leading to environmental pollution. These efforts increase strict regulation and policies on recycling. You can add more steps. Do you understand? However, this is not the case for Nigeria. Do you understand? You can now say, this is not the case for Nigeria, as there has been increase in maybe imports, or Nigeria has been known as a import-dependent country. This is just for environmental pollution, right? Plastic waste one. So therefore, so you can also include if there are steps by the Nigerian government to control states here. So this is what I'm doing now. This would actually help because this is a first draft. So this is, so if there are efforts from Nigerian government to curb this, you can state it. If there are no efforts, now if it is your company, or maybe it is not supporting, or if there are chemicals or stuff leading to this, why this kind of effort has not been successful to curb environmental pollution. Do you understand? You can state all of them here. Then you can say, you will now suggest that, now this is where your research interest will come in. So remind me again, what was your research interest on? Like,
okay, like I said, it's basically on bioremediation. And to give a better explanation, so after you've drilled and then you have some petroleum at the surface that eventually makes the soil uncultivatable. So then we could take a sample of that soil, go to the lab and see which kind of microorganisms that can help remediate the soil back to normal, that we can help.
Exactly. So what you're suggesting, bioremedy.
Yes.
So exactly, you can say, so all of these plastic waste, you can change it to the soy stuff that you're talking about. So you can say, and that is actually your research interest. You can say there has novel research on how you say it's bio what?
Bioremediation.
Bioremediation can be helpful in controlling. Now, if it's waste or the soil stuff, you can now add it in controlling and enhancing or improving soil quality or environmental quality. Now, this is depending on what you're writing on soil quality. Yes, this idea or research or knowledge is found wanting or lacking in the Nigerian environmental. Hence, my purpose is to so remember that we said courses. To involve in quality research and sensitization or teaching. Towards, you can go deep here, you just don't leave it there. So this is really technical for me. Bioremediation to restore soil quality, which tremendously improve the reduce environmental therefore I seek for apply for the master's program at University of Grad. This is an example. Okay, master's program in, first of all, in environmental engineering with a concentration in bioremediation at the University of Colorado. If they have campus that you are applying to, you can put the campus. Now we have gotten a statement of purpose. Remember that you can always come back to work around these things, right? Now you can say these skills, this part of skills, you can say the skills, this part includes preparation. How have you been preparing? Now, for example, you said that you have worked, you have gotten an experience, right? Or maybe
Yes, sure.
You were in class, you did something about environmental engineering. This is actually what piqued your interest in this kind of thing. So you can say, my interest in bioremediation was picked with my exposure. You can say something. Now, this is a personal experience, right? You know how you were exposed through this, to this kind of, do you understand? My exposure to maybe if it's a research material, if it's that you're working in a lab, or do you understand, you'll be doing something for yourself or anything. However, you got exposed to this bioremediation. Maybe it can be that you watched television, you were working in the lab, your experiences, you wanted to test new things. My exposure picked with my exposure. Let's start with maybe research papers. My exposure to an article written by blah, blah, blah. So let's use author. So now this is a place also. Another tip that I want to give you people is this. If you're writing to a school and maybe the research interest that you're doing is in that school, you see this place that I talked about papers. Make sure that the paper you're referring to here is either, this is a personal opinion. Make sure that the paper you are referring to here is basically a paper written by a faculty in that same school, or maybe even if it's in another school, but closely very related. Do you understand? Then you also have to talk about that paper, which innovative, or which gave or rendered. So I'm not really a fan of big English, but there are languages that you use to make your SOP stand out. Do you understand? You see, when I use which gave, rendered is also a very simple English, but it appears more academic than just give. Do you understand? Which rendered innovative, I'm losing my train of thought. Which rendered innovative solutions. That's what I'm looking for. On how.
Or panacea.
You said?
Panacea. If this panacea.
Yeah, you can use panacea too. Do you understand? So on how bioremediation can significantly reduce. So I'm really being lay. What I mean by lay, if you read this thing, you know that I wrote it because I don't really have in-depth knowledge. But whoever has this kind of profile, when you are in that knowledge, it will give you a general overview of what you want to write about. So reduce environmental pollution. Then you can, if you have read the paper, you would see a lot of solutions. When you read the paper, you go to the data analysis page and then go to discussion of findings. So you would always see findings. Do you understand? You would always see findings. So from their finding, you can say, oh, their findings show that bioremediation can significantly, you mentioned percentage, can reduce global environmental pollution. You can say global environmental pollution, or maybe environmental pollution in the United States, because most of them usually write about the United States. Environmental pollution in the United States by 2%. This study, you can also say something like, maybe it is cost effective and not as harmful. There are so many findings in every paper. Do you understand? So these other findings. So this is a place that you can also add your own experience. So you can also add your own experience by saying, my interests have since grown from, we can say, I usually say you can also praise this part of the person's project. You can say, oh, this research maybe was eye-opening, whatever. Do you understand? Or demonstrated how replicating STEM process in Nigeria demonstrated that replicating STEM process in Nigeria using, you can be more specific. Would help in reducing environmental pollution. Then you stop. This is actually how your interest began. You can then, if you did courses, so I don't like doing more of courses because some people switch courses. So if you did something like environmental engineering in your undergrad, do you understand? You can also do something like this too. You can also do or your projects. Do you understand? If your project is related to this, you can say this aligns, or you can say during my undergraduate studies, I researched on, you talk about your undergrad study, undergraduate topic, talk about the purpose. So every graduate study must have a purpose, right? Talk about the purpose. Sure. Purpose of the undergraduate thesis. And then talk about the findings. This is what we want to know. Then sometimes, if it's really a very scientific this thing, we can say this project used maybe tested hypotheses using regression or multi analysis of variance, which is like MANOVA. They have analysis of variance, which is ANOVA and ANCOVA. So you can go, this project was meant to discover one, this and this. And you can say, this project, let's assume that you use a specific tool in that project, but if you don't, just go straight to the findings that you discover. This project tested one or two variables we tested in that project to discover. You see where the findings come again now. So if you're testing, so now I'm in humanities, so we usually test behaviors. Do you understand? So if your project has tested or proven that maybe there are like biomedical or soil, some kind of like bacteria in the soil that would actually help in increasing soil fertility or something like that. So exactly. It might not be the same thing in your undergraduate project, but maybe related. Do you understand? So, okay, let's make it practical. What is your undergraduate project?
Okay, I had to look in, it's titled Extraction and Characterization. Now the characterization has to do with physiological physiochemical and morphological characteristics of microbes extracted from hydrocarbon polluted environment. So in
I
other
see, I
words,
don't
the old
understand.
let me just when so you are having a soil that is polluted with crude oil, so you leave it there, and then from that soil you begin to take it to the lab and see the microorganisms that are inside. So when you bring out these microorganisms, you can actually see them in the lab. Maybe you have to use a microscope after you must have culture and all that. Then from there you have to do a physical examination. That's what I call the morphological. How does it look? So. Then from there you can name it and say, okay, this is the name because of this. Then the physiochemical characteristics. How do they act in maybe in sugar? How do they act in blood? How do they act in social nature of soil? Can there become pollutants? So in this case, we just go to random environment and pick soil in a polluted environment that is polluted with
So
hydrocarbon.
yes,
Now,
exactly. So this is actually, I love that your undergrad topic is actually related to what you want to study, right? So you can see during my undergraduate study, I researched on undergrad topic. The purpose of this, which focused on understanding physiochemical components and, oh my God, physiochemical and morphological components of soil or polluted soil. So you can see testing, the way you tested, there is always a method in your undergraduate studies. So this method now is what will be here. So this project tested, if it's maybe use qualitative, do you understand, testing or lab testing? So what method did you use? Let me be practical.
Okay, it's basically an analytical skill. So instrumentation. So at this point, we are basically testing with instruments and then have a variant of it. So each of these methods in one microorganism, you can do also like 20 tests or thereabout.
So
And
what
basically
we
they are
did
all
was
instruments.
kind of like observation.
No, not observation, not observation. So you do the
Experimentation.
experimentation. Thank you. You do the experimentation
That's the
and
word.
observe their
So
behavior.
you just, the thing is, you did what we call it in research is experimentation and observation.
Okay.
So what you did, you experiment and you observe. It is also a method in research.
Okay.
You understand? So
Okay.
another thing in experimentation and observing is depending on the area that you're looking for. So experimentation, we usually have what we call a test group and observance group. I don't know if I'm right, but basically you usually have like two groups where you check if this thing is behaving. Okay, I'm going really off, but basically you usually have two groups of variables if you are doing experimentation and observation. Do you understand? You usually have two groups of variables and you put them in the same condition. So now in this case, this polluted soil, you kind of like use two kind of is this specimen that you could call this kind of samples? Yeah, it's called you use two kind of samples. Yeah. So you put them under the same condition. That it depends on what you are now testing. You understand? What would this turn out to be? So how is this affecting the other one? They call it experimental group, and I've really forgotten my statistics and research right now, but I sure do know what I'm talking about. But now, depending on what you're doing, so you said this project tested or used or employed. Let's use employed. So I like using really very lay language because you can do that. So employed experimentation. So please really take this thing out so I can know I'm not feeling this. Please, if you're not talking, can you really mute your mic? I don't want to be doing this. Can you all mute your mic, please? I just want to mute everybody right now. I don't want to leave So this employed experimentation. So please, to test. Physiological logical components of polluted soil samples to understand. If it's too please, if you're not talking, can you mute your mic? Okay. To understand, so you have to put your whatever you want to understand here. Do you understand me?
Oh my God.
I don't know bacteria, right? I'm not really in this field, but basically name the specific bacteria. That specific bacteria like now specific bacteria. I know that I'm not really vast here in this field, but I know I did biology. I know that they are usually grouped under class. So you can do like bacteria, like put the class, then like the talk more specific. Okay. So specific bacteria is rich with, you have to be more specific, more specific. So what does, so you cannot just say contribute to so or improve soil fertility. You have to, what makes it, what do you think it has that makes it improve soil fertility? Do you understand? So
Okay.
it's rich with bacteria that makes it useful. So which contributes to improved soil fertility. We now talk about that particular organism. This contents of bacteria that makes it useful, as also, we talk about other stuff, has also been proven to be useful in some other related area. So now, in this passage, you see that we have actually produced something under how many minutes? So now, in this passage, you can, if you didn't read any paper, do you understand? If you didn't read any paper, you can say that maybe a class that you took. So let's see. Let's blur out this one. So this is how I write in real time. No, this is not what I want to use. So let's blur this space out. You can say my interest in bioremediation. Or you can say, after taking a class, just give me a random class that has to do something like this.
Okay, environmental assessment is one of them.
You can put course code if it's necessary. Environmental
assessment.
After taking a course, environmental assessment, talk about a little about this, about the course.
Okay, I should give it like an outline.
Yeah.
Okay, so the course focuses majorly on the activities which hinders a cohabiting between man and nature. On all the activities which hinders a cohabiting between man and nature. It hinders ecology.
And activities which hinders, right?
That yes, man's cohabiting with the environment. In other words, ecology, that hinders ecology.
Yeah. Man's cohabiting. With the environment. There is so many. We'll talk about this stuff later. So particularly, I was interested in the process.
Ami,
Yes.
Ami. Okay, now it said injuring man cohabiting with the environment, and it could also be inextricably linked with ecology. How about that?
It's what? I didn't really hear you.
We said which hinders cohabiting with the environment, which could also be inextricably linked with ecology or ecologization with the environment, which
I didn't
could
hear the word that you
also
used.
be,
Can you like type it in the comments or spell it out?
which could be also be inextricably linked, inextricably
I know go
linked
school.
with
Like, can you like
ecology.
put it in the comments? Let me check it.
Okay, I'll do that shortly.
Oh,
Okay. That's good.
okay.
So
So
how about
this
that?
is now let me explain. Sometimes when we use big English, we tend to lose our meanings. Now, the two stuff that you actually use are way different from just cohabitation. Holistically and inextricably are two different words from cohabitation. Do you understand? And these two things does not mean relationship. But what he said is basically how man and nature cohabit. So if we want to use a different word, we would want to use a word that translates the same meaning, even if it's in a different way. Am I right, Sunday? Basically, this course is about how man and nature actually relates.
No, I mean what I'm trying to emphasize on there is that it is in similitudes, okay? Now, of course, we could deduce the dichotomy, of course, but it's also similitude with ecology. So that is what I'm trying to emphasize on now. I mean, so we could actually so
okay, wait. Are you saying
actually,
I say holistically? Which holistically focuses? Is it here?
yes, I think
Because this is actually where that English could fit in. Which holistically focuses, which is mean detail. Holistically is
exactly good. Yes, which yes.
Okay, I think here is yeah.
Or which you could use which. Okay, I would suggest you use inextricably linked, or which holistically focuses on. Okay,
yeah,
so
exactly. So now another thing I want to say is this. I was teaching English in Nigeria, and by the grace of God, I've reviewed papers here. Like when I mean papers, academic papers in the United States. One thing I noticed about people, I was very guilty of this. In fact, right now that I made a statement, I actually was very guilty of that. So our overtly use of adjectives sometimes can affect our communication. I'll also give you another instance of where I was denied a job because of my overuse of adjectives. I applied to a job that requires kind of like writing and reviewing. So they gave me stuff to review. Now, when they gave me papers to review, of course, I removed all unnecessary adjectives. But when I was speaking, I was still using actually. So really, very, So sometimes instead of using holistically focuses, trust me, there is always, so another thing I want to also put in this meeting is that there is another thing that I use, Word People. Word People is a good app that I use. So sometimes what I do is I use holistically focuses. So I just need another word for, you can, instead of using holistically focuses, you can have one word that means just holistically focuses. So overtly use of adjectives can sometimes ruin your writing. Do you understand? So you can say holistically focuses overall, predominantly. Like there is so many things, by and large. So, and then I've forgotten, there is another website that kind of like, it crunches your sentences to mean the same thing. So instead of saying, see, and now remember that statement of purpose, you're bound by word limits. Instead of using adjective too often and waste your 1,000 limits words, it is very. I would advise to, instead of using very great or in the main, see something like predominantly. Do you understand? Principally, or this is sometimes you don't even need to. Do you understand? So sometimes our overtly use of adjective can sometimes ruin our rights. I'm saying this thing from experiences because I've been denied a job, and this job was on writing, like writing and reviewing, because of not even the way I was reviewing. I was reviewing it and I was removing so many, so many. You see, when I was talking, there were so many again. Instead of so many, there were lots of, or there were, I don't know what to say again, but this person gave me, because when I received that review, they gave me, when I received the rejection, so I don't take rejections personal. I take it as a process of growth. So when I received that rejection, I told them that it is fine, that I agree with their decision, but I would want them to give me a review of my performance. So they said I was using too many adjectives in my, and then because I was an English teacher, I just wanted to show off, kind of putting adjectives that are not even necessary sometimes. So sometimes they can be they can make your writing. I know someone, I think I reviewed someone writing lately. I was also seeing the same thing. So I told them, please, for a writing that you are bounded by word limits, these adjectives sometimes are not necessary. So where I actually like when I actually advise that you use kind of really upgraded words, you see that place I said something about gave and render. You see, these are two of them are one words. So Isa, which gave, I think it was here. Let me highlight it. So which gave, so this place, which I wanted to use gave here, which gave innovative solutions. Instead, I said, let me use rendered, because rendered, it doesn't appear too hard, but it doesn't look rudimentary. Do you understand? So just like what I just said now, rudimentary, instead of saying so simple, you can just say rudimentary. So you can use rudimentary, which is just one word, an adjective too. So if we can continue back on this, do you want to say something, Isaac? Okay, if you can go back to where we were. So some other related area. Do you understand? The findings of these projects includes, you say the findings includes kind of like say, I don't know the findings that you got out of it, but include findings. And then include, and this research recommended increased use of, put recommendation, if there are one, recommendation. So now, I forgot something. I was here before, please. Which hinders man from cohabiting with the environment? Particularly, I was interested in the process of bioremediation as it was, so you have to pick the reason here. Reason for bioremediation. So this reason could be that it is cost effective, not just that it's cost effective, it is healthy. Do you understand? On human race in general. And now, given that maybe other countries has been using it and it's been working for them, because you can say, oh, I was interested in this because not only is it healthy and cost effective, it has been proven that maybe in the United States, blah, blah, blah. Basically, why you choose it. Do you understand? Remember that we are trying to solve a problem here. And then you now have to say, and you think that this would be beneficial in Nigeria. You can also say, you can also include these two. Wait. You can say after reading. Or you can say similarly, an article written by which rendered innovative solution on how biomed. Do you understand now? You see, all of these things are making sense. This is blah, 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 blah. This replicating blah, 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 blah. So remember, see, replicating the same process, and this replicating the same process in Nigeria will now tie back to why you choose the bioremediation. Do you understand?
Okay.
Do you get it now? It's tying back together. Do you understand? So this is why you choose bioremediation, because it is cost effective, and because other countries have been using it, it could also be applied to Nigeria. Then similarly, an article written by so professor, you are trying to back your claim right now. Also reviewed that it reduced United States environmental pollution by 2%. This study also blah blah blah. So this research demonstrated further that creating the same process in Nigeria, be more specific, blah blah blah, would help in reducing environmental pollution. You can now say, during your undergraduate study, you study blah blah blah, and you can say this is in tandem This is a study or in sync with the findings of the author. Do you understand? The author that you read about before. So now I will actually explain why all of these things is good for you. And it is, so I know that you, all of you, we don't have reading habits in Nigeria. Let's be honest with ourselves. But trust me, hey God, the kind of reading I've done in the past 1 year, hey, I've not done it in my entire life. I can't believe I'm the one volunteering to now read and review, but you will read. And in the academic world, trust me, you would have an idea, but if you don't cite a research backing up your idea, you're just talking rubbish. So you quoting this author's name means you're proving to them that you have an inquisitive mindset for you to also go as far as reading other people's work on that same topic. Do you understand? And then you are really interested in research because this is a research paper. That is so much that's happening. Do you understand? Okay. Then you can go on ahead and talk about your skills, your basic skills. Do you understand? You can say, I understand the need to have skills like, or possess skills like. Do you understand? So what basic skill do you need to really thrive?
Analytical research method is a skill that's been able to use vast majority of the equipment in environmental
and
environment.
Analytical skills to thrive. Thrive as graduate students in environmental engineering at U of Colorado. Please, I think faster than I write. So hence, see, hence, you can actually divide these two things into paragraphs. Do you understand? Hence, I have enrolled or acquired. So depending on where you are as at the time of writing, or acquired skills in maybe R. All of you should be learning R or Excel or SPSS. You need it to skills in R or SP, just depending. It must not be these two things. Or so you can say my undergraduate CGPA for 4.74 on a scale of 5. I'm going to really kind of like, all of us will edit this together. Illustrate my academic course and readiness for graduate school. If you have any leadership experience, you can say so if you still have more stuff going on, I'm going to, let me write this thing. I was opportune to serve as the course rep or SUG president, whatever you are, of my, you talk your seat. So I'm trying to rush so that we can go back and phrase our statement well and in this case. in my department for the year. Say 2021/2022. You say you talk briefly of your schedules and duties, right? Where
Sure.
I was involved in duties. Currently. So what I want to remove before I want to remove this thing. So this should come last. So what I'm doing now is what we call logical progression. I'm going to explain it later. I'm going to come back there later. So there is so many things about writing that I don't know how to say, but I believe that all of this kind of workshop would you see practically what I intend to do. So logical progression is that if you did art or anything, so in logical progression and writing, you can't just go back and come up again. Do you understand? So demonstrating your readiness for graduate school should actually come last when you have listed all the skills that you have. Do you understand? So furthermore, I was opportune to serve as the course reviewer. Currently, I am working as chief scientist or research scientist at my academic lab. My academic should not catch me. Where we talk about duties here too. These skills coupled and demonstrate my academic progress and readiness for graduate school. You see, I kind of like wrapped all of these things together, right? Then we'll come under research. Remember that this is not your final copy, first of all. You can always go back to edit something. See, just now, what we have is like 466 words if you're looking here. So we go back, and then your fonts. So there is no general font, but if you look at upper style or if you have submitted to a journal before, they would ask you to use font 12 and font style of Time New Roman or related style. So that is basically like, I would say it's an academic thing. So that is also what I use in all my writing. I use Time New Roman, size 12. So depending on spacing, sometimes they can specify spacing, but the spacing is usually 2 points or 1 point, 2 point or 1.5. But we'll leave it here first. Before we get to, I like to type out everything in my head before I get there. So you can see while browsing through websites, this is where you are going to show overlap of your research interest with the faculty in the department. If the department don't have what you are looking for, please don't apply, because most of the time they will not admit you. No school will admit you if they don't have what you're looking for. If you are doing bioremediation or environmental engineering or anything, and in that school they are doing industrial engineering, they will not admit you. Unless there is a way that you have to tell them that environmental engineering relates to industrial engineering in your SOP. Do you understand? While browsing through the department's website. So another thing, there was this thing I wrote in one of my SOPs. So this well, I want to actually add it here so that in one of my SOPs, I kind of like after 7, where is the after 7 as a classroom? Where is it? In my department.
As a fourth to the last line.
Let's start here.
Okay.
If I say I find a few minutes in leadership and mentoring. Therefore, an opportunity to be involved. So you're stylishly asking for a teaching assistantship. You get it? Or a research assistantship. So now this is for you that you are doing research. You can say something like, you can also say this thing. Do you understand? All of them are also. So if you're not, if you're really like the person that is not really into research, but this is something that I wrote in one of my things. I can't implement in leadership. Yes, I'll put it to involve, to be involved. In the teaching. So this is out of line because research and mentoring basically wrong. I'll fix it, don't worry. I'm using two words then. Therefore, the opportunity to be involved in similar work developments. So this is one. You must not add it. But I added it in one of my circles. So now research. Why browsing through them? I came across Professor and research which we talk about what the research lab is all about, which focuses on sometimes it might not be. So another thing is sometimes it might not be exact match, but there is always a similarity. Do you understand? Let me do environmental engineering. I also reviewed. So this is not a must, but I like, see, let me tell you, I don't know how. I might crop out this thing. I'm posting the recording of this video, but most of these professors, I think it's a human thing. It's not even their fault. They love it when people read their book. And trust me, just imagine that you posted something online and someone told you, and someone commented and be like, hey, I read your paper and you were so wonderful. You'll be happy, right? It shows that that person shows genuine interest in your work. And that is why sometimes I see, let me tell you, reading a paper is not even hard. Maybe because I've actually mastered the art, but it's not hard. You can just take 1 hour. 1 hour is too much. So any professor that you like their work, search their name on Google Scholar. Look at all their papers, the one that really interests you. Because sometimes some of them do interdisciplinary. So the one that really interests you, read that paper, I understand it. If you have questions, so what I do is whenever I'm reading, I have a book. So if I read something, I summarize it in my book. Sorry, I might be old school, but I just read and do in my paper and then later transfer to my notes. Then when you read it, you talk about their findings, you talk about their recommendation. If you have any question, you can ask. Do you understand? Like, be like, okay, but if you will usually have a question. I was reading this paper on persuasive AI and communicative AI. They were saying something about and how to strike a balance between human automation and human intuition and machine automation, right? So my question after reading that paper was like, okay, are we in striking a balance between human intuition and machine automation? Are we trying to limit machine, or are we trying to now expose the vulnerability that human intuition cannot match up with machine automation? These are genuine questions. Hello. So if you do this for yourself, trust me, it will be so easy for you. Like, I don't know how, but to be so easy for you. So you can now add that I read another paper. I also read his paper on so title of the paper, which discuss the talk, give details. This area of interest mirrors mine. You can say overlap, intersect. Do you understand? This area of interest mirrors mine. Therefore, I will release the opportunity. So this is why I say sometimes if you don't have a research interest, don't use this. Do you understand? This part, because it's like you're repeating the same thing here, but so I will release the opportunity. Therefore, I will use the opportunity either to study under his supervision or to be mentored. So, see, let me tell you, people that are shouting mentoring. See, let me tell you, I don't know. Most of the people you are shouting, sometimes I know people that the word mentoring now scares them, because I'm going to make a separate video for this whole mentoring, English, blah, 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 but I would kind of like translate people's experiences and all, and then let's share go. So, but first of all, use studying under his supervision. Don't use mentoring. Opportunity to study under his supervision as a master's is basically the same thing. Just stop it. Then you now say why you want to study under his supervision. I am interested. Talk about, ask questions. I'm interested in understanding. What is that your word that you used again? Physiological, magic, and morphological components. So,
but I mean,
yep.
In the course of perusing the prof's paper, how about if you're able to identify extremely a gap or lacuna, is it advisable to discuss that or to espouse that in your SOP? That is, and also that's firstly.
So let me tell you.
Critique. Okay.
If you notice a gap, trust me. I don't know how to say this, but now research as it is. There is no one single research that you do the research and be like, oh, this is where it's ended. There is no research that has end.
Okay.
Because where one research ends, another research starts. Do you understand? This bioremediation that we are talking about, when you now discover that, oh my God, so we can actually use, there is a way that we can add more nutrients in the soil to raise all of these bio whatever in the soil, so that we can improve soil fertility and also improve our environment, because the plants, blah, blah, blah. You have actually discovered the solution, right? Some other person will
That's biostimulation.
Yeah, biostimulation. So you have discovered the solution in improving this one. Some other person will be like, wow. But there is also another way that we can then do this thing in labs, produce them in large quantity. That's another research on its own. Another person can say, we can connect it. If we can do this in the soil, we can also do it in the ocean. That's another research on its own. If we can do it in the ocean, there is so many areas of research. And one thing you don't want to do as a student, as a professor, is find faults. There's a difference between gap and faults. Is find faults in their research. Now, you said, you talk about gap. You see, another thing I would say is this: word framing our words. You see, if I tell you, shut up, and please, can you close your mouth? They are two different things. Oh, okay, now let me use the example I did. Instead of saying bridging human automation, you can ask, does it mean that you were thinking, you not think, does it mean that we are trying, that in this research, we are trying to expose the vulnerability of human intuition? Then you would love to discuss this with him. You are giving him that leadership role in that kind of, do you understand? You want to tell him, you're telling him that you know that he knows better than you. So you want to follow his guidance. Do you understand? So you said that you were thinking that, oh, that he mentioned something about bridging the gap between human, that you really understand ethical part of, like me, I'm using this example. I really understand the ethical consideration in AI deployments. Do you understand? In social or in our society. However, in terms of bridging, that does it mean that we are trying to limit human intuition, or does it mean that we are trying to limit machine automation, or does it mean that humans we are trying to review human vulnerability? These are questions that you would ask here. Do you understand? Do you understand? Because now, see, let me assume that I'm the one writing this thing. This is what I'll write here. So this is what I'll write here. I'll write, after reading, I also read his paper titled, which discussed blah, 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 blah. This area of interest mirrors mine. Therefore, I'll use the opportunity to work with him as well. I mean, you can now go ahead and say, this paper discussed blah, blah. And now I don't even advise. In fact, this is what should be contained in code email. Do you know why I said this? Because it's not one person that read this. It's not one person that reads statement of purpose. So instead of saying a question, you can say, I'm interested in understanding the multimodal relationships between human and machine, especially in the area of human intuition and machine automation. Do you understand? I'm interested. These are things that you can do. So it is that this is actually when you pose this kind of curious and very inquisitive SOP, that is when they are not going to match you with that professor and be like, oh yeah, two of you should go and be discussing this stuff together. Do you understand? But when you say all research has a gap, there is no single, in fact, there is no single research that will gather everything together and pile it under one this thing. If you do it like that, you're confusing yourself. And that is why book exists. And that is why Sage, all these journals exist, because they will do journal like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you understand? That is why books and journal exist, because they will say, oh, journal of this one, you talk about, maybe there's this journal that my advisor edited recently, that is Journal of Human Machine Communication. Under that journal, you will see human machine communication, gender part of it, global south part of it, global north part of it. You will see different part of the same thing.
So in that case, well, what we're trying to deduce, the explicit of vacuous is that the essence of research now, it boils down on mentorship, partnership, and collaboration.
Period. In fact,
exactly
what I say is that the men for you to survive in academia, you must collaborate.
Okay.
Yes, like that is one of the tenets of academia. I think collaboration, mentoring, and one other stuff again. So you must
partnership,
and you must mentor and lead people. And then there is one other stuff again. So I release your opportunity.
But I was even thinking, I was even thinking that, I'm sorry for intercepting, okay? It's just popping in my head. I was even thinking that is it not advisable to the candidate to come up with a proposal? In fact, when you've expressed your interest in research, when you were enunciating your discourse, you didn't specify if it's a research SOP or generic SOP. Can you hear me?
Were you in this meeting when it started?
No, I wasn't.
So this is what you are writing. So this is a statement of purpose for an SOP, for an MSc in environmental engineering for 2021, Sunday. This is the person that has it. So this session is basically like a workshop. We are using someone's profile to generate.
No. What I'm trying to say in essence is that, I think there should be a specificity or explicit of probably if it's a research specific SOP or generic SOP. So now I'm thinking that in a research specific SOP or research based. So is it sacrosanct to espouse or to come up with a research proposal even in the body of the work, or generally? So I'm yet to grasp the extent and dimension of the dichotomy between a research SOP or academic. So is it ideal to make it research-based SOP or generic-based SOP? So is this a research-based SOP or a generic-based SOP? I mean,
there is no SOP that is generic.
Okay.
One. So SOPs, there are different types of SOP. So the nature of a SOP would be determined by your program and your interest. Now, your program.
Yes, Amaka, I think this afternoon I was reading an article that says, each SOP has to be customized based on the requirement of the program and availability of research facilities and what you are interested in and what the faculty are working on. So there is nothing like generic SOP. It has to be tailored towards the program you are applying to.
Thank you. Do you understand? Your SOP would be determined by the program you're applying to. So it is not every program that will have to talk about research interests. I'm confident that I will try or I will excel. Let me use Excel. Excel here. Somehow. So please, I want to put this paragraph last. Let's do it. So I will explain why I use this thing. I'll explain all of this SOPs later. So my goal is to, what's your goal? What's your goal?
Okay. At the end of the day, my goal is I'll go there, study, and come back. Being able to not this time around, not working for anybody, but meeting some regulatory bodies to better provide solutions to these challenges.
Is the word I'm using.
Okay. In
that
this
means
case now,
you do PhD, or shall you know?
If
you want to do this,
if it demands, sorry,
I would advise you to do a PhD. If your goal is what you just said. So I have friends that are doing maybe cancer research. They have their masters. They're already working in industry, doing cancer research and all of that. But if your goal is to work with international bodies, all of those kind of fun, blah, 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 that another thing is it is okay that as you move, if you roll up the corporate ladder or career ladder, blah, 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 your goal can change. So as you move on ahead, you can always be twisting it to fit this or that or that. So, but if it's to, your master's is okay, but PhD would give you some kind of edge.
Okay.
A seasoned researcher. This paragraph is mentioned. I'm going to change it. I'm going to. Let's collaborate with international bodies like placing it as in the country. What else to contribute to reduce? So, if I'm editing this, I'll probably rephrase this.
Okay.
Pollution, leads and lead sensitization and bias management. So you can also say other stuff. You must not add this if you don't have interest in teaching. But most times, people that want to do research, most times in the academic or industry, so it depends. So I'm gonna edit all of these things. So it's a function. Opportunity. I've lost my train of thought. I'm going to rephrase this. Let me write what I have in mind. I'm going to rephrase this. So school, why school? Then, so why I decided to push this down is this. When you talk about your goal, remember that we have talked about a professor and how that working with that professor will help you. Then we talk about what you want. So this why school, now I pushed it down because logically, why you chose that school and that department and that program, you tie all of these things back, would help you to not just achieve this goal, to also just to achieve this goal and also like work with this professor. So a good balance of social and academic. This is basically not how I want it to come out. So I'm confident that I will sell here. So this is what we call, this my first draft, in my opinion, is pretty much good. So now I'm going to remove all of the timeline that I set in the beginning, right? Now, even if you don't remove it, you can always add something. You can always add something or remove something. So you see what this outline really did for us is that it allowed us to channel our thoughts. Under everything, we have what we want to talk on that day. So we have about 835 words. And most SOP will want you to write 1,000 words, or at most 1,500 words. And trust me, given all of these things that I talked about here, look up courses, do you understand? All of these things that I abbreviated, you could get 1,000 words or even more. So if you read this, external research has proven that Nigeria ranks 9th for plastic pollution or whatever. Or even like you now that you're doing bioremediation, is still behind. Do you understand? In application of this kind of stuff. Do you understand? Generating about 11.8% environmental pollution related to plastic waste. However, there have been massive efforts and sensitization by top countries, countries like India. This is actually where editing comes in. And then another thing that I did is, remember that I kind of like came up with this thing under how many, say by 10, let me just say under 2 hours, all of my shalaye and all of that. So remember that, another thing I want to say is that, remember that you can always come to, so for me personally, I can never write my SOP and just submit it immediately. I come down and give my SOP at least 2 to 3 weeks of review by myself, because every day I come to the SOP and give it a fresh look or a fresh idea. What should I do? What could I have done better? You ask yourself this honest question. When you think that you've done well for yourself, then you can send it out. When you send it out, people will help you review it and give you feedback. Because no matter how fresh no matter how you come back to that same SOP with even in fresh eyes, it is still the same idea. It is still coming, all of these ideas, fresh ideas are coming from the same person. So it's also really advisable that you send it out to people so that they can help you review it. So this to me is really like a good first draft. So you can say then it's not working. So there's been novel research on how bioremediation can be helpful in controlling and improving soil quality. Yeah, this idea is found wanting or lacking in the Nigerian environmental. This idea is lacking. So this found wanting is a long word. You see what I'm trying to say when I'm editing. When I'm editing, I remove a lot of things. It's lacking in the Nigerian environmental space. Hence, my purpose is to be involved in quality research and sensitization of teaching towards the process of using bioremediation and biostimulation, right? To restore soil quality. which would tremendously reduce environmental pollution. Therefore, I seek to apply for thoughts. I think I've used therefore a lot in this one. Thus, I am applying I'm applying for master's program, for a master's program in environmental engineering with a concentration or a focus in bioremediation. All of these things should not be calculable. You'll be looking at this. You see the way I'm reviewing. This is how I review in real time. I review comma. You see, if you look at the way I add commas, I'm going to explain that, but this is English. But then remember that we are submitting to native English speakers. So look at the words that should be in capital letters, the ones that should be in small letters. Your commas, are you using them well? Look at all of these things. So after taking a class in environmental assessments, which holistically focuses, honestly, I would want to enjoy, which focused on, not focused, is focused on activities that, so I'm using that because I've used which focus on activities that hinders man's, this is man because it's possessive, man's cohabiting with the environment. Particularly, I was interested in this particularly should have comma. This is how I review in real time. So all of you should be doing all these things because particularly I was interested in the process of bioremediation. So because we talk about the reasons, right? You don't do similarly, do recently. Because you're not doing similarly. Similarly would be agreeing with the previous idea, but you didn't focus on any idea. Recently, an article written by authors which rendered innovation solution on how bioremediation can significantly reduce environmental pollution in the United States by 2%. These studies list other findings. So it's wrong. So this research demonstrated that replicating the same process in Nigeria, using be more specific about the research, right, would help in reducing environmental pollution. Now you go back. During my undergraduate study, I researched on, talk about your undergraduates, talk about why you want to bring it out, do that undergraduate topic. Is rich with blah, 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 blah. You know, all of those terms that which contributes to improved soil fertility. Content of now talk about the content of which is what you reviewed here, has also been proven to be useful in other related areas, which is like talk about the other related area. So this is also in accordance with the finding of this author. Do you understand now? You are tying a lot of things here. So the findings of this previous author, Professor Adenuga, no, not Adenuga. So Adenuga is the person you want to work with, right? So then you now say, critical, see a lot of mistakes that I'm making here. This is why it is very, very necessary for you to like do these things like repeatedly until you are sure of what you're sending to people. See, if you send me a statement of purpose and it's like this, in this my first draft, trust me, I will not review it. So it's better that you have done all of the work yourself, then you want to now hear people's opinion. I have reviewed people's SOP, and when I read it, I'll be like, wow, I love how you write, and I love how you, like, I don't even give them major review. I don't even give them major stuff. I'll be like, okay, I feel like this paragraph can come like this. Because I also notice that people tend to struggle with, it's not that they lack it, but they just tend to struggle with logical
All right.
I feel like, you can put this paragraph like this, or you can put it the other way. Do you understand? So just make sure that you've done all of this thing before sending it to people to review. So I understand they need to demonstrate technical and analytical skills to thrive as a graduate student in environmental engineering as we call it. Hence, I enrolled or have acquired skills in R, SPS, blah, 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 which are necessary or which are instrumental for research in bioremediation. This could actually, so this thing, see, this SOP is a dummy SOP, alone. It's not like dummy because we kind of like sampled it off of someone's profile, but you can add more personalization, you can personalize it more. So which are instrumental for research and bioremediation. So furthermore, I was opportune to serve as the course representative, course representative. So if it's not course representative, if you have led anything, like maybe volunteering, through volunteering. So these skills now gone. You can say that you developed this thing, or why volunteering at so place. You can say that you learned these skills while volunteering, or that as a volunteer, you learned those skills, or as a volunteer, you built leadership skills, or as a course rep, whatever skill or whatever position that you've been in, just talk about it. So for the 2020, for the year, it's not for the year, okay, rubbish. Academic session. For the 2021-2022 academic session, where I was involved in, we talk about leadership roles. If there are projects that was attached to this kind of leadership position, talk about it. Do you understand? Because you are kind of like demonstrating project management skills. So these skills coupled with my undergraduate, so kind of say currently I am working as a research scientist. At Mike Adenuga's lab, where we use inferential statistics to do whatever. Talk about the tools that you use and what you are doing. Job roles is important. So these skills, coupled with my undergraduate CGPA of, you are telling them that you're in first class. You can come here now and put first class honors. It's okay if you don't have first class, but it's not by force. So first class honors, or you put first class honors, or you put top 1% or top 5%. Put it in brackets. Demonstrates my academic prowess and readiness for graduate school. I find fulfillment. So this is very optional. Let me blur it out. For graduate school, let's stop it there. So this is how I write in real time. So it allows me to focus, kind of like darken the ones I don't need to see and focus on the rest. So while browsing through this is another paragraph now. While browsing through the department's website, this is a possessive department, possessive S. Department's website, I came across professor. Write this professor in full. Professor, their name. Use their last name. Don't use their first name when you are referring to them as professor. Use their last name. Professor, blah, blah, blah. Profile, like the S would be a possessive S. So, and his research lab, or his research lab. So either you came across their profile, or you came across, because some websites, they will not even talk about the person. They will just tell you the research labs they have in the school. So sometimes it's either you came across the research lab, maybe bioremediation lab. You can say, why browsing through the department's website, you came across the bioremediation lab, which is it headed and led? Well, you understand it? So by that professor that you are referring to, do you understand now? So then talk about this focus on bioremediation engineering. So this is very generic. This focuses on this thing now. If I am reviewing this SOP, I will write here the comment I will put here is be specific. Which focus, because now remember that the department itself is environmental engineering, but there is so many things on that. So I will just say the specific here. So this is me evaluating my own writing and correcting myself and telling myself, do this one, do this one. And this is how you should also review yourself. Because I think that many people thrive on mediocrity because they are not honest with themselves. Trust me, there is no way you'll be honest with yourself and you will not see all of these things that others are seeing. So which focuses on maybe how to use soil stimulation or blah, 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 blah. I also read this paper titled, you put in the title, which discuss, give details. Do you understand? This area of interest mirrors my overlaps with my own self. Therefore, I will release the opportunity to study under his supervision. I am interested in understanding. Physiological and this physiological be very, very detailed. The person that has this profile will understand what I'm trying to say. Physiological and components of the soil and how they can increase human cohabitation with nature. I am keen to find relief to my curiosity by exploring questions on how we can. So this thing now, let me rephrase this thing. So another thing I want to tell you people is this: why this is not encouraged, but I use it. So another thing you can do is for people that have this thing, don't ever try to use ChatGPT to generate your SOP. You will fail. So I believe that. So when you have talked about all those people, do not say, I believe that Professor this person or working under him or under his supervision will be instrumental in my journey as an up and coming researcher. Is this thing making sense?
Upcoming.
Yeah. So
or emerging.
So yes, exactly. This is what I want to see. That you see upcoming or up and coming. Emerging is better. You understand? I don't know. It's kind of like it doesn't sound rudimentary. It doesn't sound hard too much. But that is actually not the thought I want to put out here. So it's better in my journey to finding answers. Do you understand? It will also avail me the opportunity platform or the opportunity with anyone to collaborate with brilliant minds, Yep. It will also give me the opportunity to collaborate with brilliant minds in the field of bioremediation and biostimulation. This thing can be more technical. Remember that I'm not in your field. There are so many technical words that you can include in this SOP. And when someone in your field reads it, they'll be like, yeah, this person is an engineering student, kind of. So remember that this is a dummy SOP, not a semi-dummy SOP. So my goal is to conduct groundbreaking continue to groundbreaking research in the field of environment for industries and colleges as a question. Also, this area, this last two paragraphs are paragraphs genuinely. If I'm going to review myself, these last two paragraphs are paragraphs I genuinely would want to improve on, because I don't really, now they kind of like give the overall knowledge of what I want to pass through, but they didn't really appear how I want it to appear if I'm the owner of this SOP. So also I intend to collaborate with international bodies. You can mention all of the international bodies in your field and policymakers in my country in order to contribute to reduce environmental pollution, depending or whatever you want to talk about, right? Few knowledge gaps and least sensitizations on biosimulation and bioremediation. It will also be willing to teach and lecture college students in my country, as this will give me the opportunity to not just feel, this will give me the platform because you have used the opportunity before. You see, this is how I write in real time. And now another thing I also say is when you are editing, don't read it in your head, read it out aloud. Because when you read it out aloud, because I've had opportunity before here, I don't want to hear it here in my head. It will give me the platform to not just fill knowledge gaps, but also transfer this knowledge to young minds or upcoming engineers, whatever. I have never been in awe of any institution as much as I've been of University of Colorado. The institution has a state-of-the-art facilities and top ranking or the nation's best, you can say the nation's best, or one of the nation's best remediation laboratory that can be instrumental in propelling my career as a researcher. Department of Engineering has notable professors and researchers in the nation. You add details who are working on so blah blah blah, and has been awarded. Now, if you are in all of this kind of this thing, when a professor has been awarded an NSF research, there are some bodies in the United States that when you have been awarded that kind of project or grant, that means your research is top ranked. So this is why it is good to look at the professors that you are trying to look at their profile literally in real life. Look at their profile, see how far they have gone. So this is where you add it. Professors in the nation or NSF, National Scientific Foundation grant projects. Do you understand? Projects or funded projects. That's the word. NSF funded projects. Then there are others that you can include, so not just NSF. So additionally, there is also US Department of Health or Defense. I've forgotten, but look at them. Additionally, the department or institution has a diverse body of students or international students. Now that this reminds me, I don't want to put diverse body. There is a word I can use for it. What? So diverse body of international students and hospitable environment, which we provide. Which will provide a good balance for social and academic life. I believe that this school and program is the best fit for me, and I'm confident that I will excel here. Having demonstrated strong analytical skill, you have to put analytical skill, leadership skill, and academic rigor. So you see, thank you for your time and consideration. So we have a total of, let me see this. We have a total of 873 words. Before you add all of those details, you'll be getting at least 1,000 words. And remember, we just did this live on camera. I believe that just any other person can do this if you want, if you think, if you believe you can do it.